Alright, hello everybody, Brendan here, and today I will be doing a tutorial on blending multiple exposures for automotive photography. So, knowing how to do this is super important because there's a lot of scenarios where you'll need to shoot a car either when it's really dark and you need the headlights on, or just weird lighting settings where you might need to have a dark exposure and a light exposure and blend those together, or maybe something different. So in this case, we did a little bit of light painting with the light wand, as you can see, and on top of that, I wanted to get the headlights of the car to have the little starburst effect, so I did that in a whole separate photo. So briefly, I'll go over how I shot this. The headlight photo was done at a very closed aperture, f22, and that is how you get the starburst effect. Close your aperture. Sometimes if you have it too close, it'll be a little bit too dramatic, but just play around with it until you get something nice. We went with a pretty low ISO and 4-second shutter speed so that the headlights wouldn't be too blown out. Next photo was just to get movement of the light wand. I had a buddy move this around. Because he stayed moving and he's not emitting any light, he doesn't show up in the photo, but the light wand does because it does emit light. Still at f22, 10-second shutter speed, 100 ISO. Just play around with really whatever it takes to get this type of image. And as you've probably noticed, I had the owner turn off the headlights for this one. Same thing here, headlights are still off. Opened up the aperture a little bit, 6.3, 10-second exposure time, just to get more of the shadows in view. The highlights, as you can see, are a little bit blown out, but we'll address that later. It's really no big deal. So, using the Shift key, I select all 3 photos. Photo, not edit in Photoshop, but open as layers in Photoshop. So that's super important. Gonna give that a minute to load. Alright, now that they are all open, as you can see, they're just stacked on top of each other. Nothing fancy. First thing that we need to do is actually auto-align them. And I think it's, edit, auto-align layers. And I'm just gonna leave it on auto. Okay, we'll see how it does. Usually Photoshop does a pretty good job of this. Okay, so the reason why we needed to do that was actually because my tripod did move between photos. I recommend keeping it as steady as possible, but for whatever reason, it moved. And I didn't actually realize that it moved when I shot the photos, but it's really no big deal. We can always use that auto align feature. So as you have noticed, all the layers are visible, but because this one's on top, it's the only one that we see. The other ones are, below it. So that gets us into blending modes. Now, blending modes are basically what tells Photoshop how to make a given layer interact with the layer below it. So for this, we're going to set them all to blending mode lighten. So basically, it will only lighten what's below it. And that's the reason why, for example, the headlight photo, that's the reason why we only see the headlights in the final image. Because all the darker areas, which of course that headlight layer has a lot of dark areas, don't really affect what's below it. So that already looks a lot better, definitely a step in the right direction, especially if you've seen the completed image on my Instagram. But there's actually a lot more that we need to do. So as you can see, the background or the skyline is very, very bright. It's a little bit too much. I'd even say that the pavement is a little bit too bright. And all that we really wanted from this exposure was the car. So actually what I'm going to do is get rid of everything in this layer except for the car. Now of course, if I was editing, this photo not for a tutorial, I'd be super careful and probably use the curvature tool. But for the sake of the tutorial, I will only use the eraser tool just to kind of also show you what the effect of this is, as it's being done. Now this is obviously super ugly and messy, and not what I would do for the final product, but as you can see, this is what we were more going after. We have the brightness of the car, but not the overexposed background, and the light trail is a lot more visible now. So we would still like the ground around the car to be a little bit brighter, and of course I am no longer taking that from this image, so let's figure out what image would be best to take it from. Probably the light paint image. So let's do a camera raw filter on it. And I'm not sure if this is the best way to do it, but it's how I do it, so. Let's bring the shadows up. Just do kind of like this for now. Okay. As you can see, our ground looks a lot better. Car is super visible. And I'm just going to touch up that outline, now that you can kind of see where I'm going with it. Okay, so now that we have touched up the car, still it's not perfect, but you know, it's a lot better than before. Let's see. We do have a weird little hue on the car, or a little area here. I don't know what to call that, but as we can see, it is coming from the light painted layer. So let's just go onto that layer and just get rid of those areas. And we can just do that with the eraser brush. Just make sure you're on the right layer. And I just think it's a little bit distracting on the car. But it's all personal preference. If you want to get rid of that or not get rid of that. Really, either way is fine. Okay, so now that that has been taken care of, let's actually crop the entire image. When we did the auto align, as you can see, the edges didn't line up quite as well. So, I mean, this is super simple. I'm just cropping it in to get rid of the ugly edges. Oh, did I miss that edge? That's fine for now. And we can also do this when we put it back into Lightroom, so I'm not overly worried. Now I will do a camera raw filter on this layer alone. Now if you want to make adjustments like I'm about to do of the parts individually, this is the time to do it, because once it goes back into Lightroom, all the layers will be merged into one. So, gonna actually, let's not touch saturation here. Let's do it in the HSLs, because I would like to get rid of all these weird tints except for the red. The red's really the only color that we need on this layer. The little red accents here. Expose it a lot more. Bump those shadows, add clarity. That's a lot of clarity. Let's add this for now. As you can see, it's a lot better, but because we did boost the exposure, it kind of exposes my bad eraser tool job down here. Like I said, I'm not going to make it perfect for the tutorial, but let's at least make it decent. I'm just erasing, off of this layer. Okay, I'd say that's about good enough. Actually, I feel like I made it a little bit too bright. Let's back off on it a little bit. say that that's a little bit better. So of course, you can do a lot more tweaking, but I just want to give you guys a general idea of how you would do this. But yeah, I'll call it done. So Command S on my laptop. You can see it's saving. 94%, 98%. And it's going to automatically populate back in Lightroom. As you can see, it has now put this image, and this image into this image. So I'm just going to make a few more adjustments. And, you know, this is all personal preference, and I'm not doing like a real edit here that I'd usually do. But I'm just going to show you guys, you know, that you can still make Lightroom adjustments to it. It's kind of cool. Let's bump it down a little bit. And then because we didn't actually get all the way to that edge, I'm just going to crop it in a little bit, clean up those edges, which I really could have done in Photoshop too, but, you know. And I think we can call this done. Okay, so now that you guys know how to deal with multiple exposures, I will be doing some more tutorials on light painting and night shooting and stuff like that, so look out for those. Thanks for watching. Please leave a like or a comment, and let me know what you'd like to see next.